Welcome to Commander for Dummies with your host, me, Bobby Maximus. Now, you may have seen some of my other work, Muscles and Magic Gathering, some of my other deck techs, but today we are going to focus on one of my favorite topics of all time, again, Commander for Dummies. And what we're going to talk about today is 10 essential artifacts that you absolutely 1000% need in your Commander deck. But before we do that, take a trip back through time with me. I started collecting Magic the Gathering in 1994. I came in at the tail end of Unlimited. I've collected for over 31 years. At one point, I had over 40 complete sets, every single card in the set from front to back. I had binders and binders and binders of singles. I also played 60 card decks. Anyway, a few years ago, two really good dear friends of mine convinced me to get into Elder Dragon Highlander, Commander. When I got into Commander, there was a massive learning curve. It's a much more nuanced game than Standard, Modern, Legacy, or what I used to play, 60-card kitchen table style Magic. The cards work differently. It's not that they work differently, but some cards are more powerful. Some cards are less powerful. Some cards are more usable. And there was a lot of questions I had about building a Commander deck. Things like, how many lands should I run? How many artifacts should I have? How many instants should I use? How many creatures should I have? What should the total mana value of the deck be? And I'll refer to mana value again and again and again in this series because I think it's astronomically important. Regardless, the learning curve for me was absolutely massive. So I've been wanting to do this series for a while to just simplify the game. So whether you're an advanced player, an intermediate player, or you've never played Commander before, but you are curious, you could jump in head first and have all your questions answered. So that's where this series comes from, and I'm really excited to share this with you. Now back to today's topic. We are going to talk about these 10 absolute essential artifact cards that you need in your Commander deck. Couple of things. Why am I starting with artifacts? Because out of 57 Commander decks that I currently own and operate, and they exist in real time. Here are a couple of them right now. We have Whispers of the Eldrazi. That's with Emrakul the Promised End. We have the Nilfgaardian Empire. That's with Marwyn the Nurturer. We have the Lords of Atlantis. That's with Kumena. That is a Kinfolk deck featuring the Merfolk. Anyway, I've got a lot of decks, and you know what all of them have in common? They all have artifacts, and they all rely heavily on artifacts. Artifacts help with mana ramp, they help with tutoring, they help with card draw, they help to beef up your creatures. Without artifacts, you can't run a competitive Commander deck. So I just wanted to put that out there. So that is number one. Number two, don't expect to see any game changers on this list. Now, Bobby Maximus, why wouldn't you have game changers on the list? They are game changers, some of the most powerful artifacts ever. There are two reasons. Number one, you could just go look at the game changer list and get those cards and put them in your deck. You will almost never regret having a game changer in your deck from the perspective of power, from the perspective of usability. But the other reason I didn't want to include game changers is because there's a lot of people that play bracket 2. There's a lot of people that play bracket 3 where you're only allowed a limited amount of game changers. You're not playing bracket 4 or 5 where you could just shove all of them in your deck. So these game changers, what are they? I've got it pulled up on my side computer right here. We have the Chrome Mox. We have the Grim Monolith, great card. We have the Lion's Eye Diamond, great card. We have the Mana Vault. We have the Mox Diamond. We have the Panoptic Mirror. And we have the One Ring. If Mana Crypt and Jeweled Lotus were still legal, they would also be on that Game Changers list. At any rate, you want some Game Changers, go fill your boots and get them. They are absolutely stellar cards. But again, this list, no Game Changers. These are just 10 essential artifacts that you absolutely need. So with that in mind, let's do the countdown. Number 10, we have the Swift Foot Boots. It's a casting cost of 2. An equipped creature has hexproof and haste. Equip cost of 1. Now, why is this on the list? Because if you play a high-powered commander, If you play a deck with Marwyn as your commander, if you play a vampire deck and your commander is Edgar Markov, if you have a Lords of Atlantis deck like I do, a Merfolk deck, that's a great name, by the way, but Kumena, you are going to be a target. You want to be a real target? Play a mono black deck with Sheoldred. People are coming for you the minute you get that commander out on the table. So you're going to need some commander protection, especially because the way I build decks specifically around my commander to feature the strength or enhance the strengths of that commander. The last thing I want to see is my commander sent back to the command zone. So the Swiftfoot Boots has become an essential artifact card that I use in almost every single commander deck. Number 9. And just like the Swiftfoot Boots, another card that's just a great piece of commander protection. The Lightning Greaves. Same casting cost. An equipped creature has haste and shroud. What does shroud mean? It can't be the target of spells or abilities. The equip cost is 0. Now, why do I rank Lightning Greaves above Swiftfoot Boots? Swiftfoot Boots cost 1 to equip. The Lightning Greaves costs 0 to equip. So it allows me to get it out earlier. It allows me to protect my commander earlier. But again, same type of premise. Now, the question I often get is, Bobby Maximus, which one of these would you run if you had a choice? I would probably run the Lightning Greaves, not in every single situation, but most situations. But the real answer is both, because I believe on doubling down on that type of thing. I might even add the Brotherhood Regalia into the list as well. But the more commander protection, the better, and especially because these are an extremely low casting cost. So if you're going to build a commander deck, the first thing I want you to do with your artifacts is protect your commander. The next one on the list is one of the greatest tutors ever made, completely underrated, especially for a common, the Expedition Map. Costs 1 to bring out, you pay 2 mana, sacrifice Expedition Map, search your library for a land card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. There's a lot of powerful lands in Magic the Gathering. Gaia's Cradle, Tolarian Academy, banned, but I still play with it. Urza's Saga, the Inventor's Fair. Maybe it's an ancient tomb that you're looking for, but you are going to want to go get that land that's going to turn the tide of the game. Expedition Map allows you to go and get that land, and there's so many insanely powerful lands in Magic the Gathering. You're going to want a way to get them. You've got to remember there are 100 cards in a commander deck. So if you have 100 cards, you shuffle. 1 card is off to the side. That's their commander. And then your first draw is 7 cards. So 7 plus a commander is 8 cards. There's still 92 cards in your library. What if that land that you really need is at the bottom of your library? You need some way to go get it. So that's where the Expedition Map comes into play. I feel like people sleep on this a little bit because it is a common. I feel like people don't understand the value of this. I want to tutor for lands. I want to put that land on the battlefield. And I can't tell you how many times I've got this instead of my Gaia's Cradle in my hand, and I've been able to go get that Gaia's Cradle. So the Expedition Map, an absolute, it's not a literal game changer. It's not on the game changers list, but this can be a game-changing card. All right, so we have 10, 9, and 8. Number 7, without a doubt, the greatest sword created in Magic the Gathering history. Sword of Feast and Famine. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from black and from green. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, that player discards a card and you untap all lands you control. Just the ability to halfway through your turn untap all the lands you control, that is absolutely massive. The more times you can untap your lands, the better you're going to do, all right? So the Sword of Beast of Famine. And as an added bonus, you force a player to discard a card, so you can systematically get rid of the cards from their hand. So the Sword of Feast and Famine, the greatest Magic the Gathering sword ever created. Next up, the Sword of the Animist. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. And whenever equipped creature attacks, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. When you're building a commander deck, there are 3 super important aspects to building a competitive commander deck. Number 1 is card draw. Number 2 is tutoring. Number 3 is mana ramp. The fact that you can search your library for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped, that will help you accelerate in terms of mana ramp just at an incredibly fast rate. So the Sword of the Animist, it's a card that I include in a lot of decks, and I love the casting cost. It only costs 2, so it's really, really easy to get out in the early game. Next card up, the Lotus Petal. It's a 0-drop artifact. And one of the things you're going to notice with a lot of these cards, that costs 2, that costs 2, that costs 1, that costs 3, that costs 2, and that costs 0. I'm really, really big on low casting cost cards. Now, another thing that I'm going to throw in, we're going to do a whole episode on this in the future, but the total mana value of your deck. The total mana value of your deck is all of these added together. So if I was looking at the total mana value of these cards so far, we have 2, and 2, which makes 4, and 1, which makes 5, 3, which makes 8, 2, which makes 10, and 0, which makes 10. Ideally, in a perfect world, I want my commander deck to be under a total mana value of 200. If it's under 200, it's going to move at a fast and a furious rate. It's going to be competitive. Actually, in a perfect world, I'm going to want it lower, 160, 170. There's artifacts like the Great Henge that are tremendous artifacts, but it's got a massive casting cost, so usually I don't include it in my deck. I love artifacts with low casting costs, and these all fit the bill. And the lowest you can get is a 0, the Lotus Petal. Sacrifice Lotus Petal, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, play this ability as a mana source. What an incredible card to get on your opening hand. And the quicker you can get the jump on your opponents, the better you're going to do in a game of Commander. And again, it fits that feature of mana ramp. I can't tell you, and I would tell you till I'm blue in the face, card draw, tutoring, and mana ramp. And of those 3, you could make a real argument that mana ramp is the most important thing, all right? So the Lotus Petal. Next artifact up, Sensei's Divining Top. It costs 1 to bring out, so again, it's a low casting cost artifact. You pay 1 and look at the top 3 cards of your library, then put them back in any order. If you tap it, you draw a card, then put Sensei's Divining Top on top of its owner's library. Now, it doesn't specifically help with card draw. It doesn't necessarily get you a card draw advantage. However, it is elite, maybe the best, what I call card fixing or card orderer of all time. And the best part of this card, it can be used in any single deck, although in certain decks, it can go absolutely bonkers. One of my favorite infinite combos of all time is using the Sensei's Divining Top with Bolas's Citadel and the Ether Flux Reservoir. You can go infinite and you can nuke the entire table and end the game immediately. So do me a favor. Get yourself a Sensei's Divining Top, one of the greatest card fixers of all time in Magic the Gathering. Next card up, Skull Clamp. This has an argument of being the greatest card draw engine in Magic the Gathering history. Now, people talk about the One Ring, and yes, you can draw a lot of cards with the One Ring, but a Skull Clamp in the right deck is absolutely dominant, is absolutely supreme. It only costs 1 mana to bring out, and it only costs 1 mana to equip. Equipped creature gets +1/-1. Whenever equipped creature dies, draw 2 cards. So where I use this is in those decks, the elf decks, the goblin decks, the merfolk decks, where I have a bunch of 1/1 token creatures. You know where else I use this? In my humans deck, in my warriors deck, all right? If you have any kind of deck where you have a bunch of 1/1 creatures, especially tokens, that you can totally have go away, every single time you attach this for a mana, that creature dies, and you can draw 2 cards. Do you have any idea, if you have 31/1 tokens on the board and a bunch of mana, how many cards you can draw using the Skull Clamp? It's absolutely insane how powerful this card is when it comes to a card draw engine. And again, I've spoke about this before. I will speak about it again. Card draw in Commander is king. Remember what we talked about earlier. There are 100 Commander cards in your deck. One of them is the Commander, so that leaves us with 99. If you draw 7 cards, that means there are 92 cards left in your library that you need to get at. And the card that you really need to make your combo go off, the card that you really need to win, it might be 50th, it might be 55th, it might be 60th. So tutors, yes, tutors help, but being able to draw as many cards as possible, almost at will, is a massive part of winning in Commander. And that's why the One Ring is such a game changer, because it's a massive card draw advantage. But I would argue that in the right deck, Skull Clamp is actually a better card than the One Ring. Again, I use it with my goblins, I use it with my elves, I use it with my merfolk, I use it with my zombies, I use it with my vampires, I use it with my humans. It is such a usable card for card draw. If you do not have a Skull Clamp in your deck, you are 100% doing it wrong. So get yourself a Skull Clamp. Now, for the next card up, the Arcane Signet. And I get it. You think this is boring. You wanted me to show you something like the Walking Ballista and talk to you about all kinds of fancy combos, right? You know where people lose the plot in a game of Commander? They try to get too cute. They try to get too complicated. They try to have all these fancy combos. But again, it goes back to those 3 things that I talked about: tutoring, mana ramp, and card draw. And you know what one of the greatest mana ramp cards of all time is? The Arcane Signet. Now, it is less powerful or more powerful depending on your commander. So you're going to add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. So let's take a look at where it's most powerful. Something like Bria, the Ethereum Shaper. We have 4 different mana symbols in the commander's color identity. So now Arcane Signet can tap for a plains, an island, a swamp, or a mountain. That's where it does its best work. Even better in a 5-color deck. Like you have this in your Joda deck, your Morph on the Boundless deck, like it goes your Ezio deck, right? This is an absolute monster of a card. Where is it at its least effective? Well, I have the deck for you. Marwyn the Nurturer, all right? And I'm looking for Marwyn right here. Should have had Marwyn queued up at the start. But Marwyn is a mono green deck. And by the way, this is in my Marwyn deck. Absolutely beautiful card. A little bit of bonus content, but I am not against that. Another little secret, and we'll talk about this in another episode, but Kenrith's Transformation, a monster of a card that you absolutely need to be playing because it will take out somebody's commander. Anyway, I am looking for Marwyn right here, but the point that I'm trying to make, and there's Marwyn, all right? In a mono green deck, this can only tap for green. So in a mono deck, it's not the greatest card, but it is still useful for mana ramp. It's still one of the better mana ramp cards. Like when you compare it to something like a Gilded Lotus or a Hedron Archive or some of these other, a Thran Dynamo, it's still a useful card. So the Arcane Signet, get it in your deck. Now the reason, and you might be watching this saying like, thanks Tips, Captain Obvious. Of course we have an Arcane Signet. I didn't realize that when I started playing Commander. But then I started to realize that almost every precon ever created, Arcane Signet goes into it. It is that good. And I overlooked it because it's not worth a lot of money because it's that common. But if this card was, we'll say, a mythic rare, you have any idea how absolutely valuable this would be? It would be bonkers. The other cards that fall into that category are the Command Tower. Can you imagine that was rare? That card would be the greatest card in Magic the Gathering Commander history. And the other card, the single greatest mana ramp piece of all time in Magic the Gathering, and a lot of you sleep on it, Soul Ring. And you'd be surprised the amount of people that I've played with or I've done a deck review for them and they do not have a Soul Ring in their deck. All right, now usually that's a new player that doesn't understand how powerful this is. But the Soul Ring is literally the most powerful mana ramp card of all time. It costs 1 to bring out, and then you add 2 colorless mana to your mana pool. You get this in your opening hand. 1, statistically, you are way more likely to win the game. And 2, you become a massive target because you are about to go off. If there's one card in Magic the Gathering history that you want in your opening hand, it is a Soul Ring. But Bobby Maximus, if it's so good, why isn't it a game changer? They didn't include it on the game changer list because it's literally used in every single deck. Like if you are going to sit down and build a deck, I don't care if it's monocolor, duo color, tricolored, 4 colors, 5 colors, all the colors, you colorless, like my Eldrazi deck, the first card out of the 100, out of the 99, if you will, that you put in is going to be that Soul Ring. The Soul Ring is my argument of why Mana Crypt should be legal and why Jeweled Lotus should be legal. Actually, I have a good friend that's a D&D Dungeon Master, got into Magic Gathering, much at my convincing. And he called me up and he goes, listen, Bobby, I'm having a problem. I can't figure out why is Mana Crypt banned and Soul Ring is not? Why is Mana Crypt so expensive still and Soul Ring is not? It's simply because Soul Ring is printed in every pre-con ever. It's literally become a common. But I am here to tell you, Soul Ring is the absolute best mana ramp card of all time. So again, to kind of our themes, right? The mana ramp, the card draw, the tutoring, the Soul Ring is the king of mana ramping. So when we look at these 10 artifacts, right, and we're going to go back through, we have the Soul Ring, mana ramp. We have the Arcane Signet, mana ramp. We have Skull Clamp, card draw. We have Sensei's Divining Top. Sure, a little bit of card draw, but mostly card fixing, and I'll actually put those in the same kind of category. We have the Lotus Petal, mana ramp. We have Sword of the Animist. That is a mana ramp card. Sword of Feast and Famine. Sure, not traditional mana ramp, but if you can constantly untap all your artifacts, that's going to help you. Not all your artifacts, I'm sorry, all your lands. That's going to help you get ahead in the game. We have the Expedition map. We have a tutor. And then we have a couple of pieces of Commander protection. Now, the beauty of these 10, if you took any of the Commander decks that I have, if you took this Brea deck, if you took my Kumena deck, if you took my Emrakul the Promised End deck, I promise you, see what I did there? Emrakul the Promised End, and I promise you, but a Lightning Greaves fits in all those decks, a Swiftfoot Boots fits in all those decks, an Expedition map fits in all those decks, the Swords fit in all those decks, the Lotus Petal certainly fits, even in the colorless deck. That fits, that fits, that fits, and that fits. If you were going to build a Commander deck and you were allowed to pick 10 artifacts at random to throw in that deck, you could count your blessings. You could count yourself extremely lucky if these were the 10 artifacts you had. So there you have it, 10 essential, and I mean essential artifacts that you can have in your commander deck. Are there other artifacts that are good? Sure, there are. Something like the Walking Ballista, great artifact, but not useful in every single deck. These 10, these will go hard in any deck that you're going to own. So go look at your decks, check your artifacts. Trust me, stock up on these 10. Whenever I get one of these 10 cards, they go right into a special box that I have for use in later decks because I always know I will find a place for them. So that is this episode of Commander for Dummies, talking about artifacts. Don't fret. You're a green player. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about blue. We're going to talk about black. We're going to talk about red. We're going to talk about white. Again, we're going to talk about mana value. We're going to talk about how many lands you should run. We're going to talk about the curve. All of the burning questions that you have on how to build the best commander deck possible, I will answer. Thank you for spending some of your day with me. Magic the Gathering, a huge passion of mine for 31 years, and all I really want to do is get a little better at the game, have some fun, and interact with incredible like-minded people like you.